Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to the Week 3 Waivers live Q&A on RotoViz Radio. I'm Kevin Szafraniec, and tonight I'm joined by Blair Andrews, managing editor of RotoViz.com, author of The Wrong Read, and a whole ton of other awesome articles on a regular basis. How's it going, Blair?
It's great. I'm excited to be doing this show. Everybody, as people know, you have this awesome waivers article up on the site today. So I'm excited to dig deeper into that and go through some of these players who are really kind of surprising in a lot of ways.
yeah, I think surprising and has maybe been the operative word for week 2. Maybe more surprising due to injuries and surprising how thin we
Mm.
are currently at a lot of positions. I'd say the biggest one has got to be wide receiver. I mean, we lost Cup, Debo, Jefferson, maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe. It just came out today. AJ Brown's out for a couple weeks. Debo wasn't even hurt yesterday. Now he's out. I mean, that's the biggest one. If you look at that, that's 5 guys that were regularly drafted in rounds 1 and 2 that teams are not going to have moving forward. So I think that's kind of the main area that's probably hit the hardest. I mean, and that's just really like that's why we draft so many wide receivers, right?
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
why we just hammer them in the early rounds. Um, and it's say like once you look at the waiver wire, there's generally not that many enticing names available. Uh,
That's true. That's true. There are not that many enticing names. Of course, it depends on kind of how deep your league is, but yeah, it's kind of a wasteland out there once these guys go down and you're trying to pick up some, you know, try to replace Debo's production or Jefferson's production. I mean, that's impossible, but hopefully there's some guys who can give you some of that. I think there's some interesting names. You wrote up a few in your article who you suggested spending up to 35% of your budget on Khalil Shakir and Quentin Johnston, who both are, uh, well, Johnson's available in a lot of leagues. Shakir, maybe a little bit less so. He might not be on the waivers, but he is still on the waivers in more than half of ESPN leagues. So, both of these guys are very likely to be available. Is there one that you're prioritizing over the other? Or, I mean, I guess the other question is, how much do you believe the performance we saw in week 2, especially for Johnston?
well, I mean, that's the with Johnston, it's the low volume passing. Like right now, he just jumped ahead of McConkey in PPR points, receptions, yards, but like we just don't know. So I think it's one of those things of I think Shakir's going to have the more consistent production, but he may not produce all season, or he may not have those huge spike weeks where Johnston, might have these big spike weeks, but then he might disappear some weeks too. So I
Yeah.
guess it's more of like what pick your poison. I think Shakir is good if for somebody that if for a team that's going to need somebody to throw in the flex consistently, like that's might be the way you want to go. I mean, currently he's at the wide receiver 30 through 2 weeks, but he's consistent. He was the 20 wide receiver 25 in week 1, wide receiver 31 in week 2. Where Johnston right now is the wide receiver 11, but or he was the wide receiver 11 last week, but he's currently the wide receiver 23 after 2
Yeah.
weeks. So right now, I think it really is like a really what type of production do you need? Do you need somebody that you just might throw in 1 week? Then I think that's probably Johnston. If it's somebody who's like right now, it's like say you had Cup and AJ Brown, or Cup, Debo, you could have 3 of those guys on your team and be
Yeah.
really out of
Yeah.
it. So like it just really depends.
Right.
And the one thing I did want to ask you before we start getting into some questions is, do you feel like Jerry Judy belongs up with those guys? Because I think I'm a little jaded on Judy for so I moved him a tier down, but he could easily be up with those top 2 guys in tier 1.
Yeah, I mean, Judy, I think, you know, definitely before the season, I would have had him up there. I think it's kind of been surprising how much work Elijah Moore's gotten.
Hmm.
Um, but with Njoku out, I expect they'll need to go to Judy a lot. So I would probably have him pretty close to that tier.
Yeah, that's to say. I mean, he's wide receiver 29 through 2 weeks. I mean, the thing is, Cooper is doing nothing. He has 7.7 PPR points through 2 weeks. I don't know if we can really expect that to continue, but I mean, Judy has been a pleasant surprise, especially for me being a Browns fan. I don't roster many Browns on my fantasy teams, but they're still my team, my go-to team as a fan. So, so if we want to, we can get into a couple of questions. Let's do a nice little segue into running backs. Francis says, "Hey folks, how are y'all prioritizing the Chiefs running backs?"
Not. Yeah, I mean, there was some rumors, I think, that they were looking to add Kareem Hunt. I think that's not very interesting from multiple standpoints, in that I don't expect him to be very productive, and he might also hurt some of the other guys. But, you know, Pirine is a player who is probably more talented than a lot of people give him credit for. I think he would be my top Chiefs running back right now.
Yeah. And I say, actually, coincidentally enough, right when the Chiefs signed Pirine, I did write up a little thing like saying, "Hey, is Carson Steele dead?" And I actually talked about this exact scenario playing out. And I mean, I think it's going to be a split backfield.
Yeah.
Right in week 2, Steele had more targets or more opportunities, more carries, and more snaps. So, but I don't think that. I think just Pirine's history, they'll probably throw. I wouldn't be surprised if Pirine starts, but then Steele ends up maybe getting more touches, and it's probably going to be like a hot hand sort of approach. I don't even know if the Chiefs really know what they're going to be doing with this in this scenario. And really, Hunt still can produce, but I'm not super worried about him coming in and just, taking over the backfield.
Yeah, right. He's more, it becomes harder to project any of the guys with Hunt there if he's going to be taking some of the work. I'm kind of skeptical about him actually having a significant, like a fantasy relevant role, but it does make things a little murkier.
Yeah. Well, going to next running back, actually the guy that was at the top of my running back, the first tier, Braylon Allen. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun talking about him. So I'm very interested, after what we saw from him on Sunday against the Titans, how you feel about the split between him and Breece going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's likely they both score 20 points in that many games going forward, but I don't think we should be surprised if it happens again a few times this season. I kind of hinted that I thought this might be kind of a Kamara, Mark Ingram situation, only, it was, you can never really project that because that's such an outlier type of season. But I mean, if there's a backfield that's going to give us that, it looks like this one, where you have two really talented guys who can apparently both catch the ball, both run the ball. I'm excited about Allen. I think he has standalone value, even if Breece is healthy. So, yeah, he'd be one of my top ads this week.
Yeah, and I know that it was funny when I was looking at the Monday review tool. Allen had exactly half the touches of Breece. I think it was 14-7 in carries and like 4-2 in targets. So like, how do you see that? Do you see that being kind of the same split, like a 66-33 split going forward? Do you think it might, start leaning a little more like 60-40, 55-45?
Yeah, I think probably what we saw is probably what to expect. If anything, I might expect Allen to get more carries and Breece to give up some of those, like between the 20s carries, and be used more as a passing down. That's not even fair to say, not a passing down back. I mean, he's still kind of all purpose, but I don't know. That didn't really seem like the way the Jets were using them. It was more Allen was just kind of a pure backup. So yeah, probably 66, 33, 34 is what makes the most sense.
Cool. Got a bunch of people asking about quarterbacks right now.
Yeah.
So here's a 6. We're still rocking a 6-point passing TD league.
All right.
Between Fields, Darnold, or Cousins.
I just want to look. I mean, Darnold is really a tough sell without Jefferson. That makes me lean toward Cousins. Obviously week 1 was not that good for him, but week 2 he had 2 touchdowns. It looked like things were a little bit better for that offense. That would probably be where I would go. This is a tricky one though. Yeah, what are you thinking?
I mean, at least we saw that Cousins can actually run play action. That was the big thing after week 1. Everybody said he can't move, like he can't. He doesn't trust his Achilles enough to run play action. So at least we saw that yesterday. So that's squashed. But at the same time, I mean, that Atlanta offense is not. At least the passing offense does not look good.
Well, yeah,
like they do not look good, like really at all. So that's a toss up. I mean, I think we go. I would say Cousins right now with the uncertainty about Jefferson, and just hope that maybe that offense continues to evolve.
Yeah.
But like that's a tough question though. Especially, and even Fields, we don't know how much longer he's going to be starting because he hasn't really done enough to like keep that job once Russ is healthy.
Yeah, and even if he does start, I think most of his value is not. He might still be the best, the top scorer of those 3, but the 6-point passing QB format doesn't do him any favors.
No, this is in a similar vein, another Fields question, but like this goes directly into what was in the waiver column this week. Because I have Carr and Geno in the top tier right now,
Yeah,
and then Darnold is a step below them. And I said in the waiver article that I would probably prefer Geno because I don't really feel like Carr's production is sustainable. Because I mean, he's either the QB1 or QB2 depending on format right now. But he's never been really a very efficient quarterback at all. Like I think his highest finish in FPOE per game is like 9th, and that was all the way back in 2015. So it's just really hard to think that he's going to keep doing this all season. I mean, Clint Kubiak may be the skeleton key for Derek Carr. He's just been waiting for him his whole career. But I really Geno right now with what we see passed 44 times per game.
Yeah.
On Sunday, he's got 2 elite. We want to say we're hoping wide receivers, a third good one. I mean, I'd probably be looking to probably start Geno maybe over Fields as soon as next week if I were to get him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think with what the Seattle offense is doing, I mean, at least as long as Walker is hurt, it seems like they're going to be passing a lot. And probably even when Walker comes back, they still will. So, yeah, Geno led the league in passing yards last week, and I think we might see that happen a few more times in this offense.
Another little nugget that I also saw looking through the Monday review tool was that Carr has the least amount of pass attempts among any quarterback who's played in both games or started both games. Yeah, so it's just like through the roof efficiency right now, and I can't really imagine that's going to continue.
Yeah.
So we got just dip back for a sec. So QJ or Whittington in half PPR, I'd take QJ all day. That Rams wide receiver core is just too hard to tell right now, and I think Whittington's at the bottom of it.
Yeah, I would take QJ too. I think Whittington's interesting, but I mean, Tutu's there. He's also interesting in his own way. And they just, I kind of think that offense is going to be a mess without Kupp or Puka. So,
yeah. Then there's not so much a waiver question, but a rest of season question. Where do you guys stand on guys like Keon Coleman and Jordan Addison rest of season? Both seem to have upside, but also feel capped in their respective offensives.
Yeah, this is a tough one because the Bills' offense these last 2 weeks has been pretty weird. Not getting the ball to Coleman, who you would think they'd want to get more involved, not getting the ball to Dalton Kincaid, which is an even bigger problem probably. And then, Addison obviously not even playing right now. So I think if I had to say from here on out, rest of season, assuming Addison actually can, get back on the field and play the whole season, I would go with Addison. But a lot of uncertainty with both of these guys.
Yeah, and I do believe that Addison's court date is set for whatever their bye week is. I believe it's like week 6.
Yeah.
So if we're going to get a suspension from him, we're probably going to get it around then. And I can't imagine it'll be like the entire rest of the season, but anywhere from 4 to 6 games, as somebody who doesn't really know a ton about this sort of stuff, is kind of what I'm feeling in my gut. So take that for whatever it's worth. But just if we knew that we were going to have them both healthy after week 6 for the rest of the season, Addison I think is the clear pick. But I would like to see, in that Bills offense, I think Shakir's the person to own. But Keon Coleman is on the field the most out of all the pass catchers there. So
right.
So like they're not going to give up on him. And maybe we all kind of knew that he wasn't a very polished prospect coming into the league. So there's always the chance that he makes those steps, takes those steps going forward.
Right. Yeah. I'm certainly not giving up on Coleman. I think they're gonna do what they can to try and get him involved in some of these games coming up, because you want to at least give your early round picks a shot to succeed.
Yeah. So we can scroll down to the tight ends. So similar question. I overpaid for Likely, but I don't want to fall into sunk cost fallacy. Would you keep trying to stream with Gesicki, Hunter Henry, or even Schoonmaker?
Maybe Gesicki, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hunter Henry, that, Patriots offense has a lot of problems. I don't know if you can expect him to get like half the targets that many times, but both those guys are kind of taking advantage of the fact that the other weapons either aren't on the field or aren't really producing. It's kind of hard to see a scenario in which Likely outplays Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews for the whole season, but he obviously can put up huge games too. So yeah, that's like a non-answer. So I don't know what are you thinking about these guys?
Well, I wrote them both up in the waivers piece. So, just with how bad tight end's been so far this season, they're both actually top 5 tight ends right now through 2 weeks. They're top 4 tight ends in week 2, and they're both top 5 through 2 weeks right now. And I said, obviously, that's probably not going to last as things start to level out. But I wouldn't be surprised if either of those guys is, low end tight end 1 by the end of the season. I still think I'm right there with Diego as far as I have some sunk cost into Likely as well. I put some pretty big bids in on him. But also at the same time, I still kind of stick to that thought that Likely is probably still the number 3 option in that passing game.
Yeah.
So I'm not giving up. I don't think I would give up on Likely just yet to go with Gesicki, who, it's nice to see Gesicki doing something, after, he showed some signs of life in Miami and then kind of faded away into nothing in New England. Now he's kind of, getting a little spicy there in Cincinnati. But even Eric All
right,
had a decent game as well. And something that Hassan brought up when we were on the Fantasy Football Report that I didn't think of until he said it was maybe Kansas City is just that terrible against the tight ends.
Yeah,
they Likely blew him up. Gesicki blew him up. And Hunter Henry's, I think, is going to be those guys that just continues to go up and down. So right now, I'd probably stick with Likely, but I'm fully willing to admit that might not be that might not be the answer when it's all said and done.
I think all of these guys, and with most tight ends, it's the case that you just are hoping for a spike week, and if they don't have it, they're probably close to 0. And Likely is the same way. I'd probably stick with him. We know his upside is so high, and he seems to have a little bit more of that, maybe a little more of a floor where he's getting a few targets every game.
Yeah. And I guess I'm going to be a little selfish here, and I want to ask my question. So, is Kyle Pitts just bad at football?
Oh, come on. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I like. Literally, that's the only question that was going through my mind during that game last night. Is I'm just like, he just doesn't get the ball, and when he does, it's like a 1 yard, 2 yard catch. I mean, right now he's tight end 7,
Yeah.
but if you take away that touchdown in
Yeah.
week 1, he'd be tied with Juwan Johnson, who only played 1 game so far as the tight end 17. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't want to give up on one of, talk about sunk cost fallacy. I mean, I have him.
Right.
I don't even want to tell you like the trades that I pulled off for him in Dynasty a couple years ago, just thinking that he was the next big thing at tight end. So, how do you feel about Kyle Pitts?
I mean, I feel like I've been saying the same thing about Pitts for as long as he's been in the league, and I'm going to keep saying it, which is like, I mean, obviously this offense is not doing him any favors. There's no question about that, and has never done him any favors. And I do have some hope that as Cousins gets more comfortable in the offense, as the pass catchers get more comfortable with him, things will start to come together a little better. Hopefully we'll see that really impact Pitts to a greater degree. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely frustrating because like you do see like Ray McLeod is kind of like, he's not good either, but he's kind of okay. And Pitts is bad. So yeah, I don't completely know how to justify it anymore. I think I'm taking solace in the fact that even though I was so wrong on Pitts, I've been so far so right on Brock Bowers.
Amen. And those Brock Bowers shares across all platforms are looking really nice right now.
Yeah.
So we have another running back question. It has to do with Tua. So how are we feeling about Jalen Wright with Tua out? I mean, it's oh, sorry. I was just looking at Francis. I'm going to pull this up real quick. Are you willing to oblige? You willing to oblige, Francis?
Oh man, I don't know if Francis wants that.
So back to Jalen Wright. Sorry.
Jalen Wright. Yeah. If Jalen Wright is going to be catching passes from Skylar Thompson, then I don't hate that. But I don't think that offense is probably going to be that good without Tua. We've seen them try and play without him before, and it's been pretty disastrous for pretty much everyone involved. I think the thing that sometimes can save a running back is if they are like a receiving option in a bad offense, they might get more targets than, say, a wide receiver would in a bad offense. So there is some value to having a guy who's going to catch passes. I think, if it looks like Wright is going to have some value in that regard, then it probably makes sense to, I don't know if you can start him, but I still like him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here. I wish he would have got more opportunities in the other game when they're getting blown out, and they still kept Achane in there. I think that the biggest thing, I mean, I just wrote up like what we might be able to expect. Achane is really the only one who might win out in that whole Tua being out situation. I mean, he's had I can't remember off the top of my head, maybe 14 targets. He's caught them all so far this year. Like he really is like the EP double guy so far this season.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the guy that we might be able to see that out of, as long as, he can stay on the field. So I hope that, Jalen Wright can eventually pass up Wilson. I mean, Wilson does have the veteran advantage. He's reliable. He's been on that team for a few years. So, but Jalen Wright's a lot more exciting, and I didn't really see anything out of him on Thursday that made me think that he shouldn't be on the field. He didn't fumble or anything like that. So,
right.
Kind of makes me wonder if he will get a chance going forward, especially if the team isn't doing very well.
Yeah.
And then here we go, Blair. You got money on the table.
Oh man. Any requests?
I didn't actually expect him to do it, so I was just saying I didn't actually expect you to do it. So
Well, you got to talk now while I
Oh.
think of something.
Yeah.
Think of a weird tuning.
Oh. So Shirley comes in and says, I wonder if I should drop Spears to pick up Dowdle or Chandler or even Braylon Allen. I have Brees standard scoring shallow bench league. Yeah, if there's no IR spots, I would definitely be looking to I would go Braylon Allen first, then Chandler, and then Dowdle. I'm just not really in the oh my gosh.
I like Braylon there,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't drop Spears.
Yeah. Spears is your guy. I don't know. I mean, I'm to the point now where I think I would take Braylon Allen over Spears. I understand. Have you heard anything about the extent of his ankle injury so far? Because I have not.
Yeah, I haven't. Slowing down my research with this guitar request.
I'm wondering how the volume is. I feel like it's pretty loud, so I don't know how loud I am, but
it's too loud.
Gets around, I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know because I can't hear the stream as we get way off track. But yeah, I think especially in a shallow bench league,
about the same level.
The shallow bench league, I personally would drop Spears for Allen.
There we go.
So yeah, and Shirley said no IR spots in that league. So that's where I would go. I think Blair would have a different opinion because Spears is his guy. Go read our bold predictions if you want to know how much Blair really likes Spears or any of his advanced stats articles.
Yeah, that's right. I am a fan of Spears. I think it does depend on what the latest on his injury is, which I haven't seen.
Yeah, neither have I.
Haven't seen. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Avoids major injury. But I'm not seeing a timeline.
Yeah.
Day to day is what head coach Brian Callahan says. So I think it's pretty good news on Spears. So, I probably wouldn't drop Spears yet, but I do like Braylon Allen, for instance, which is somebody.
Well, surely that's on you, Blair, because that's why Spears is on the team. Then going back up to Nick's question, can you start Waddle and manage, or would you be better off considering someone like Deontay Johnson or even DeMarcus or QJ? And I actually did just write up a new newsroom piece for anybody who hasn't really been up on them. They're kind of more like concise, smaller articles, and one of them was literally like how have Tua how have Tyreek and Jalen Waddle done without Tua, and just a quick in split. Waddle averages 15.93 PPR points per game with Tua, and without him so far in his career, he's 11.05 yards per game. On a season-long pace, that's a difference of 271 PPR points with Tua, 188 without him. So, I mean, when you're looking at Waddle versus Deontay, DeMarcus Robinson, QJ, I mean, I don't know. I think you got to go with talent still, regardless. I mean, I don't really know if you're going with that 11.5 or 11.05 PPR points per game. I mean, I don't really know if any of those guys, maybe outside of QJ, get you that. Even Deontay right now, and that Panthers offense is so bad. I think you still got to roll with Waddle. And, he's got the talent. Like, sometimes you just got to rely on talent over everything else.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's unfortunately going to be kind of ugly without Tua, but all of the other guys are also going to be pretty ugly just in the nature of the case. Unless QJ comes out and it turns out like he was actually worth a first-round pick.
Yeah. So I think we could probably take a couple more questions real quick, then we got to get out of here. One is a trade question. Let me scroll back up. So it's a trade. Rashee Rice and Achane for Garrett, for obviously Garrett Wilson and Tank Dell.
Um,
So Achan and Rice for Garrett Wilson and Tank Dell, I do believe, is what it is.
uh,
I mean, I'm probably on the Achan Rice side of that.
yeah, probably. I mean, Dell looks like he's easily the third guy in that offense, right? And Wilson hasn't quite put it together with Rodgers
Mhm.
yet. I mean, you probably can't go wrong on either side of that trade. It depends on which is more of a position. Oh, wait, Garrett plus Tank plus Reed.
Yeah, it's all the way down at the bottom there.
Well, I do like Reed, but he's also in kind of an unfortunate situation without Jordan Love. Um, yeah, I think it depends what, is wide receiver a big position of need for you? In that case, it can make sense to kind of stock up there if you have
Mhm.
a running back who can take Achan's spot.
Yeah. Yeah, because it really does depend on team context.
Yeah.
Because that is, I mean, that's a nice trade on either side. Whichever way
Right.
it shakes out, I wouldn't be super upset. But I mean, I don't know. Honestly, right now, usually I'm the guy that would be taking. I mean, I think the two guys that have proven that they're elite resources right now, I might be going with that. I might take the Rice Achan side of that. I'm gonna take two more real quick. So, second to last one, Goddard or Hunter Henry rest of the season. I think I'm probably on the Henry side of that.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I don't think that Henry is going to repeat this performance that many times, maybe ever in this season, but also Goddard looks like he's, I don't know, not a non-factor in that offense.
Not awesome. And then
Yeah.
we'll end it off on a high note. Thoughts on JSN, Worthy, and Brian Thomas Jr. for the rest of the season.
So extremely bullish on JSN. I think he's well on his way to becoming the wide receiver one in Seattle. Worthy, I still like a lot, although it does appear, at least early in the season, his volume is going to be, not quite at the level we want. But I mean, obviously, he can break off a long touchdown whenever. Jaguars offense, I haven't been enamored of, but obviously Thomas has the same kind of big playability. So yeah, I'm at this point very optimistic on JSN and at least cautiously optimistic on the other two, if not full blown optimism.
Yeah. And saying Sean put out a JSN piece.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a composite piece, a bunch of different stuff in there after following the games on Sunday. But I mean, that JSN game, that's the game that I wrote up in the week one review that like that's the game that anybody who's championed him for the last 2 years knew that he had in him. It was just finally that Seattle actually says, hey, we're gonna actually use him like like a real receiver, not some check down guy. I mean, I think as much as the volume was encouraging, like the 10.8 A dot was the most encouraging point of that whole game. It wasn't
Yeah.
the 3 yard A dot and all that. And I think Worthy is we've seen probably what Worthy is kind of going to be big splash plays, but he can disappear. And like I think like the Deshaun Jackson comps are very valid. Deshaun Jackson early in his career, he would have those huge blow up games on super efficient, but like sometimes he just wouldn't, deliver for you. And actually, after watching Brian Thomas Jr., I'm actually pretty excited about what he can do. Obviously, that offense isn't the greatest, but I mean, he had 94 yards on 2 receptions, and in week 2, he's leading that. I think. Oh shoot, I'm trying to remember. I think when I wrote up Gabe Davis, Gabe Davis has the largest target share on that team, but I do believe BTJ is leading him in all the other aspects of it.
It looks like Davis is running more routes, has more targets, but I mean, we're looking at, is this the whole season? Yeah. 3.1 yards per route run for Brian Thomas. So, it's a small sample, but almost 16 ADOT. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He meshes well with Lawrence wanting to chuck it down the field. So
yeah, right. It's a valuable role in Jacksonville.
Yeah. So just want to say thanks everybody for tuning in. We're going to get out of here. Do you believe with the high stakes lowdown? Is that what's?
That's right. That's over on the FFPC YouTube channel, and that'll be on the RotoViz Radio network as well, the podcast. And we'll probably get this one up tomorrow morning for anyone who wants to listen back and be reminded of how great our answers were or something. I don't know.
And then for Nick, just go back to read our bold prediction article at the beginning of the year, and I'll be doing a victory lap on Achan if this comes to fruition. So he was my guy. I wish I actually drafted him more than my bold prediction would lead people to believe, but still, very excited. Love watching him this year. I love that he's getting the receptions and everything. So he's my favorite player to watch in the NFL right now, like bar none. And hopefully he can keep it up without Tua being there.
Yeah.
So anything else you have in the works that you want to hype up before we get out of here? Anything coming on the site in the next day or two?
Yeah, I mean, just keep looking. Going back to the site, we got Sean's Zero RB is coming up. My Wrong Read is coming up. Dave's got his wide receiver cornerback matchups piece coming up. Kevin, of course, has the wide receiver advanced stats. So a lot of great stuff over the next few days to help prepare you for week 3. So yeah, definitely go check that out.
All right. Well, once again, thank everybody for tuning in. Thanks for all the awesome questions. And then be sure to continue to check out RotoViz every day for all the latest in-season content. Like I say, all the stuff Blair mentioned, I try to get out a few newsroom articles every week, just to, some stuff that may not be as I don't want to say relevant, but may not need such a in-depth look. Just kind of like, hey, this is what's going on. This is how we should play these situations. For a 10% discount on a 1-year RotoViz subscription, please enter discount code RotoViz or RV Radio 2024 at checkout. And until next time, take care and good luck to everybody with all these winning waiver wire pickups for this week. Take care, everybody.